What's up, everybody? Welcome back to How It's Done. Today we are going to be walking you through how to replace a carpeted room, or the carpet in a room rather, with this beautiful hardwood flooring. It's actually not hardwood, it's a vinyl plank flooring, but yeah, we're going to teach you how to get this installed, as well as how to do a transition like this, where it looks almost like a professional was done. We're going to teach you how to do that today on How It's Done.
Alright, so first thing you got to do obviously is rip up the old flooring. You can do this by either trying to grab a hold of an area in the corner. If you're going to try and save the carpet and use it somewhere else, you can typically just pull it up like that and then just pull it back, and you could roll it up, save it if you want. Then you'll have to obviously get the underlayment, the padding, get that up and roll that up too. But for this purpose, I'm doing this to just get it by the street and throw it away. So we'll get that up, and then we'll take a pry bar and just knock these tack strips out and get the floor all nice and clean and have it ready for the vinyl flooring. So for this next part, like I said, you set this up and that pulls those up real easy. Once you get all the tack strips up, you still at some points are going to have nails that might not have come up with the tack strips. So what you want to, and you might have some areas where there's some concrete or something that's uneven. So just taking a putty knife and you're just going smoothly along here. See, there's something here. And what that is, it's actually a piece of the nail where the head broke off, so I'll knock that in with a hammer. We got another nail here, so I'll get that out. There's a little raised up piece, we'll flatten that out. Any little bumps in here, another nail. So any little bumps in here are gonna make this vinyl flooring pop up just a hair. It's not gonna be super noticeable unless it's a big bump, but you want to go through and clean out your surface, make it as flat as possible. For the first piece, we're going to be starting in this corner. As much as I would like to start over here and just work my way toward the door, can't quite do that because the way the tongue and grooves are on this, it needs to be sticking out on these two ends so that you can hammer it into place. So we're going to start by placing that underneath there. Tucking it into place. And then I'll take a measurement and make sure that that's square. And we'll get our next piece on. What I'm going to do is get a weight from the garage real quick and weigh this down so it doesn't move as I am hammering the other pieces into place. And then what we're going to do, since this is a 4 foot by 9 inch, roughly, piece of plank, we're going to bring this one in a third, and then the next one a third. And the reason I'm doing it this way is because when you're looking at it from this angle, it's going to kind of do that with the way that the wood is faced. But as you're looking at it coming into the room, you're not going to really see anything weird like that. It's just going to look random. You'll see what I mean when this is done. I'll explain it. So let me grab a weight and we'll get this next one put in place. I'm going to be using a rubber mallet. So now for the second one, get it in there, slide it into place just about where we want it. This is a little awkward because I'm using one hand to hold the camera. But once you get it pretty well in place, just give it a tap. Rubber mallet, we're good. Make sure that the front is flat, good. Cool, move on to the next one. If you don't have a rubber mallet, plastic mallets work just as well. Just don't use a metal hammer. That will mess up your floor. So yeah, let's see what we can do to get this knocked out. All right, so now we're to the last piece in the row, and as you can see, it's a little bit too long for the wall. So we're gonna have to mark it and cut it. Two different ways you could do this. You could measure it, distance from here to the wall, or you could flip this over like so, and just push it into the corner. And what that's going to do, this edge right here, when it's flipped over again, is actually going to be the edge in the corner. You'll always want to cut the edge that's going to be against the wall, because if there's any imperfections in the cut, the trim is going to hide it. Plus, this way your interlocking channels are still going to work. So we'll go ahead and mark this here, get it cut, and see how it fits. So to cut it, you basically just mark where you're going to cut. Use a speed square or a straight edge or something to hold in place while you're cutting it with the razor. Just score it a couple times, make sure you follow the same line, otherwise you're going to have possible splintering if you have a couple different lines. It doesn't know which one to break along. You could also use a jigsaw, which is going to come in handy, especially as you go around the door frames in areas where a straight cut is not going to work. I haven't used a circular saw on it. I don't know how well that would work, but yeah, basically just going to hold it down in place, and that's all there is to it. And we'll clean this up with the razor a little bit, and should go in place. So the piece is in place, and I've gone ahead and used a block of wood to kind of tap it in the corner here. And you can see as it was going underneath this, it was pretty snug. So just put that against there and tapped it until it lined up perfectly here. So now I just take a rubber mallet, tap everything down, nice and smooth, locked into place. So the gap here, according to the transition instructions, says it needs to be 1 1/8 inches. And as you can see, we've got about maybe 3/8 at the most. So I could cut this wood, bring it in, but 1 1/8 inches is going to put me about here. And I don't want the transition to be going out into the room. I would rather have it underneath the door. So what I'm going to end up doing later on at the end is cutting out this tile, which gets tricky when the tile is already attached to the ground. So you'll see how to do that. But I'm going to cut out this tile so that the transition is right here in line with the door. So it's not as big of an eyesore. You don't have these lips hanging out into the room. Yeah, so let's go ahead and just get the rest of this knocked out. So this has been working out pretty good so far, but as I'm seeing, the baseboard is going to have to come up, because as we get to this back corner, there's no way I'm going to be able to drop these down and hit them into place with the baseboard on there. So we're going to have to pull this baseboard up, and I have to pull the baseboard up in the closet too. Also, I need to go in and remove the tack strips from in here. So we're going to go ahead and pull the baseboard up. In order to do that, I'm going to be using a very slim little pry bar here. I mean, you can see it's a really low profile pry bar. And what I'm going to do is basically, we're going to put it on there. We'll see if we can do this with one hand. We'll tap it with a hammer. Yeah, it's not going to work with one hand. But we're going to hit that with a hammer, just pry it away from the wall, work our way around. I've gone in and cut the corners where it's already connected with the silicone caulking. Yeah, excuse me. So I've gone through and done that, and I'll show you what we're going to do after that. As you can see, I've gone through and vacuumed up for the most part. Back behind there again, there are a few spots, however, where you have nails like this sticking out. So we'll take some pliers, pull those out, or the back of a hammer, and pull those out. And yeah, we'll keep working on this. I've got the baseboard out in here too. So I'll show you how to do this tricky corner here. The piece is gonna come to this door at least. I don't know if it's gonna, how far past it it's gonna go, but it's gonna be a little bit tricky. So yeah. The right way. Lay in the groove and slide it right to there. Okay. And then I'm gonna go ahead and mark on either side, just where it's underneath the groove. And then I'll take a distance from here back, and we'll cut that. All right. So, mark it right here. And then the distance back is going to be about 4 inches. So, mark back 4 inches on that. We'll cut this with a jigsaw and see how this works. Alright, so for this last piece against the wall, a full piece is not going to fit. So what I've done is I've taken the jigsaw and cut along here, taken about 1 inch off. Just went in and measured to make sure that we've got enough of a gap. Then I'm going to be able to get this little tool here, which is going to basically hook around the back end, and it's got a little spot that you can hit with the hammer, and it'll knock it back into place. So let's get that done. The first thing I'm going to do is slide it up so the tongue can go in there. Get it back down. I'm going to take the hammer. Lock it into place in this corner here. Good. Let's get here. Hold that in place. That one. Move a little further along. This just pulls it back really nice and easy. Nice clean finish. Alright, so in order to get this last part done, which is the transition, we got this little transition piece that we've cut to 30 inches so that it will fit perfectly between the door here. So what we're going to do now is go ahead and flip this over, and I'm going to space this about where well, basically where there's going to be a little bit of overlap on either end. You want to have, on this one, it says about 3/4 to 1 inch of space in the floor so that you can put the track in. I'm just going to kind of eyeball it, but you can take measurements. The floor is actually fairly level, so going from the same surface. They do have some different pieces you can use if you're going to different elevations. But from here, basically I'm going to hold this down and mark a line with my pencil. And then that's the line that I'm going to be cutting across using this oscillating tool with a diamond tipped bit on it, or blade on it, so that it will actually cut through the tile. These diamond tipped blades are good for tile, glass, porcelain, brick, whatever. So we're going to go ahead and get started on this. Hindsight, the oscillating tool is not the way to go. 2 hours and about 5 batteries later, this is what we got. So as you can see, we haven't even made this little cut down here yet to the wall. It's having trouble getting, deep because it keeps hitting the ball there. Same thing over here. So what we're gonna do is just take the two 12 by 12 section tiles out, and we'll just cut the track shorter and trim it up. So once you get it to this point where it goes all the way through to the mortar built beneath, just give it a tap. That stuff comes right up. You can come in here. This whole thing comes out in one piece. Pretty easy. And then for this part underneath here, you can just tap it, and it comes right up. Real easy. So we got it all cleared out. Actually, as I was clearing out this end, I kind of hit it with the screwdriver, and it chipped the tile almost perfect. So that worked out. I'm not going to risk trying to do that intentionally over here because with my luck, I would try and do it and it wouldn't work, but I do it by accident and it works fine. So yeah. So we're going to lay this track in there. We went ahead and cut it close to the size it needs to be. I got it a little bit shorter than it needs to be, but it'll work out. So we got this track in there, and we're going to mark where the holes need to be drilled. Just hold it steady with one hand, mark it with the other. You're going to want to look to get about equal spacing on either side. And that's pretty close to what we got, but really more than anything else, I'm looking to make sure we got an even gap along what I know is the flat surface, which is this. So we're good on that. We'll go ahead and pull this up, and we'll drill those holes and put some of the plastic anchors that it comes with in there, and then we'll put this back on and screw it in place.
So my camera battery actually died for the final piece of this, but basically once you've got everything screwed down into place, you'll just set this track in place on top of it and tap it down with a hammer. And as you can see, it's held in there pretty tight. You can probably pry it up with a screwdriver if need be, but it's on there pretty tight. That did a pretty good job of it. So yeah.